actually start coding. First, if you're installed Visual Studio Code, you will click New File in Python. You can search it. But if you're on the web and you don't want to install it, and so you don't have to do any of this. You don't have to save the file. You don't have to save the, you don't have to create the file. But some compilers don't automatically save your program, and next time you go on that same website, it won't save it. So you should probably save that code in a Google Doc or something like that. And if you're ever lost, there's a fantastic tool called Google. And if you're doing it on Visual Studio Code, you can copy what I'm doing. If you're doing it on a different code editor, then you can search on the tool I told you, Google. And if you're on a code editor, like on the web, most are like split vertically. One half is like stuff to write, and one half is just whatever you're gonna run. So, but if you're on Visual Studio Code, click New File, pick Python. So let's begin. First, there's one thing called print. Write print high, and when you run it, if you're on Visual Studio Code, you're gonna obviously have to save it. I'm going to save it in my Python folder and name it my first Python.py. Save. You can see it printed high. If you're on web, you won't have to save it. You can just click and it should work for you. You can just click run. So print, all it does is it literally just types high, as you can see right here. And you can see I put parentheses. Let's see what will happen if I don't put parentheses. If I run, it says it's giving us an error. And you can see the yellow squiggly line. That means it's wrong. So there's different types. What I mean by types is I'm going to explain. Don't get overwhelmed. This is going to be super simple after you get it. First, you have string, or which is called your text. You know, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and whatever. And then you also have your int, or integer, which is going to be your numbers. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, right? And next, you're gonna have your. Actually, we don't have to worry about that. But these are your two main types, right? Text and numbers. If you're, let's go back to print. Whenever you're using something in Python, it usually has parentheses, and this is just one thing you're always gonna do, okay? If you're writing text, use parentheses. If you're writing numbers, you write just the number. So since we wanna write hello, and if you run, it's gonna work. If we write 1 with no parentheses, you can see it works. Now what if we put number in parentheses? It still works, but I thought you said you couldn't put numbers in parentheses. Let me explain to you how that's different. We can do something like this. We can do print 1 plus 1. And if you run 2, right? But look what happens if I put the ones in parentheses. 11. It's doing that because it thinks it's like a letter, like a letter 1. If we have letter Q and E, and if we plus them together, it's gonna give us QE, not something else, as you can see, like we run here. So those are your two different types. So now just try printing your name and blah blah years old or whatever. The next most important thing we're gonna learn is variables. Variables are super important. If you're in the point of math where you know what a variable is, it's just basically something that means something like X is our read. Remember, text is always in parentheses. So we can set the first part. See, this is what a variable looks like. X is equal to Arian. That's my name. This part, you can change it to anything you like ice cream, milkshake, dumplings, whatever. Equal just means what it is. X is Arian, right? And this is just whatever it's equal to. So it can be 1, 2, 3, Arian, McDonald's, right? Look what happens when we do this. Print X. But that's a text. Don't we have to put parentheses? No. For variables, you never have to put parentheses. What happens? It prints Arian. What if I change the name to UI? And change that to UI? Huh? It still prints Arian. What if I change this to 1? It prints it to 1. Simple as that. Now, and just one thing to note is, let's create two variables. AO is equal to also fun. But this one's gonna be in parentheses. What do you think is gonna happen if you do UI plus AO? It gives us an error because we can't plus a number and text, right? So there's two stuff we can do. We can either turn the number into text, and how we do that? Watch. We write str, which just means text. So now it turns that into a letter, like the letter 1, like A always. So it prints 11. But we want to do 1 plus 1 like actual 1 plus 1. Now look what happens. Int, that just means integer or a number. Integer of 1. Now should print 2. And that is your basic stuff. Now for our very last thing. We're going to do, I'm going to show you something called input. What if we want to do like, you're asking somebody, type a number, and they type something and you want to tell them whatever that number times 2 is. That's kind of confusing, but let me show you. First, we can create a variable. And what input is it just asks the person. Remember, we're doing text, so it needs to be in parentheses. Then we can write, tell me a number. And then if we do print, hey, we're putting the input in a variable, because whatever they write, like 20, we want to make sure we know what that thing is. If we just do that, if we just remove A is equal, we remove the variable, we won't have no way of telling what the user wrote. So we just turn A into whatever the person writes. Input is for input or asking a person. See, it asks me to tell us a number, and it returns 893 because that's your number. And we can do something like, remember how we have to turn string into integers or numbers? int. So we can just put it in here, and we can do something like 80 times 2. So whatever the number is, it's going to print whatever the number times 2 is. Like 6. Double of 6 is 12. So now we know that works. And that's it for today. Bye.